Liked by the sound of violence.
Obviously, a bit depressed about your main event. I think everyone is, because everyone loves Robert Whittaker. But, one boy has to fall for another boy to rise. That's the rule. When all the people in the title contention are your boys from back when, because I pick them so well early. They do that well later on. Everyone ends up being a champ. No, it's not true at all. Though Dan Hooker did well, and I've had him pegged as a boy for a while. Pegged. Ooh, not a good choice of words there.
Are you excited about it all?
What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are an MMA podcast to let you know the MMA podcast you should catch, skip, and can't miss each week, as well as we try and check out a new show. I am Pulver here, still during fucking Sober October, so I'm drinking coffee, which I'm real excited about, and I'm back yet again with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
Well, this has definitely not been Sober October for me. I am hungover now
jealous.
for the second day in a row, so I'm kind of helping you catch up.
Yeah.
For your sobriety, right? Someone's got to drink for you.
Yeah, one of us should be
taking that role.
Yeah, one of us should be hungover if we're recording at 9 a.m.
Yeah, so checks out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm having coffee with Kahlua because I need to keep drinking. I guess, right? It's a way of life.
There you go. Well, I guess that's
It's not, and I don't endorse alcoholism at all. I'm a functioning alcoholic. Please don't drink. Drink responsibly. As MMA on the Rock says, right? The disclaimer?
Yeah.
Shouts out to those guys.
Yeah, drink how you go and drink. I'm sober right now, so I'm really all for
No, but also drink how you want to drink.
Here.
Just don't get in your car.
Yeah, oh,
like
well.
It's common sense.
Yeah, that's really the only rule. Anyway, I guess that's a good lead-in to our totally real sponsor, the Papa Vodka... every time. Papa Vodka presents Doug Stanhope presents our super real sponsor. I am drinking shitty Starbucks coffee, and that's about it. What do you said you're drinking coffee with Kahlua in it?
Yep.
It's a good mix.
I just finished it too, so it's like, fuck. Well, I'm awake now, so I guess it served its purpose.
There you go.
So we're good.
Well, I guess my only other sponsor this week is the since it is Sober October, but I had enough time not smoking weed. I was getting real grumpy there, so I got the fucking heavy hitters. What is it? Girl Scout cookies pen that I'm hitting, which is fucking.
I was gonna say, dude, like not smoking weed's lame. Like it's not a drug. It's never been a drug, so like it shouldn't count towards the Sober October. So smoke all you want.
That was probably too big a hit. We will find out in about 20 minutes. And that was me dropping it. Anyway, I guess that's a good enough lead-in. Whoa, that was way too big. This stuff is pretty legit. I guess that's a good lead-in to start the episode. So why don't we go ahead and jump into format so I can try and not cough and die right now. Chris, why don't you start us off with the MMA podcast you recommend people catch this week?
I really like the A-Side Life Chat because they had Pete Carroll with them, with Jose and I think was it just Jose?
Yeah, I think so.
It's just Jose and Pete Carroll. So of course, right off the bat, they start discussing a potential fight that I guess I'd kind of say a lot of people want to see. Some people I don't want to see. Anyways, Adesanya and John Jones. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that talk this week.
So they're just kind of saying the middleweight division is kind of as good as it's ever been. Let's let Israel fight other middleweights like Paulo Costa first, maybe Jared Cannonier. They're asking what's the real definition of a super fight. is it when two dominant champions in a division are facing each other? So shouldn't each champion kind of have been defending that belt for a while? That kind of thing. They said, they discussed what real super fights have we had in the past. One of them mentioned Conor versus Eddie. In my opinion, that's not really a super fight because both those guys, well, Conor never defended shit. And Eddie, that was his first title defense, and he got knocked the fuck out. So it wasn't really a super fight.
Yeah.
It was a money fight. It was a red panty night, whatever you want to call it. GSP versus Bisping was a super fight, kind of, but still not really. It's a super fight in that it's GSP, and he's a needle mover. Stipe versus DC, that's a real super fight. Cyber versus Nunes, that's a real super fight. Shevchenko versus Joanna, that's a real super fight. So it's been a couple. They talk about the 185 division.
Pride back in the day.
Exactly. They talk about the ramifications of, this weekend's main event. As far as the women's strawweight title picture, especially if Joanna, and I know she made weight, I believe, right? Especially if she decides to leave for 125. I kind of feel like that's inevitable.
Yeah.
To discuss where does Robert Whittaker go from here? Pete Carroll is not a fan of Jared Cannonier and him carrying around his earth minerals and crystals. He says he would, however, love to see that narrative of earth crystals and minerals versus a weeb in Izzy. He thinks it's a fun narrative. I don't really know if it would be fun, per se, because even if Adesanya tries to talk shit, I feel like Cannonier literally doesn't give a fuck. He's like, okay.
Yeah. Cannonier's said over and over again, he's not much of a talker. He does his talking in the cage.
Yeah.
But then again,
really
he's
good at talking with his
crystals
hands.
Too. That too.
Yeah. Maybe he can do like fucking American Sign Language. I don't know. But then again, it's better talking with your hands in the cage instead of literally talking with your hands. Yeah. That's lame. Well, it's not lame. Never mind. I was trying to be a dick.
Mean, quite literally, by definition, I believe technically, if you're using sign language, you're probably technically lame.
I mean, well, yes, technically. See, I always told someone,
let's move
like,
on.
oh, do you know? Yeah, they're like, oh, do you know American Sign Language? I'm like, this is the only one I know. Like,
right.
Clearly, I don't.
I can spell tequila. That's the only thing I know. It doesn't come in handy.
What's thank you? I don't even know. I was gonna do something, but it might look like a fucking like Sieg Heil shit, and I'm not gonna do that on camera. Like,
Smart.
I don't know the gesture.
You don't want to do Bert Kreischer.
I don't want to risk that. I don't want someone to like, yeah, exactly. I don't want someone to like fucking screen cap me accidentally doing some weird shit, and they're like, oh, does the sound of violence support Nazism?
Well, now they're just gonna clip it out. They're gonna clip that out, so now it just sounds like the sound of violence supports Nazism. Damn it! I just said it again. Oh, we're fucked.
I just played myself. God damn it. Hey, fuck Nazis. There we go. Take that out. And fuck China. Did I say that yet?
I don't know if that was off air or on air, but it'll come up again.
Oh no, we're on air. And fuck China. I'll say it again.
Free
Tibet. Free Hong Kong.
When you said that, I feel like they know.
I know. It's like they're just like this right now. Like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my catch. How about you, man?
So for my catch, I had a couple. The first one was Fights Gone By, episode 170. Really solid episode overall. I just really liked it. You guys actually heard on the intro, Jack Slack had one of the funniest jokes of the week. Actually, him and Phil McKenzie had very similar jokes. You'll actually hear Phil McKenzie's version on the break here in a bit. But Jack Slack talks about how one boy has to fall for another boy to rise, which is the most Jack Slack shit of all time. Talking about Izzy and Whittaker, obviously. He also talks a bit about Ryzen 19. And let's see. He talks about Iaquinta basically just becoming a ducking right hand or a single to a right hand over and over again recently in his fights, which is rough to watch. He talks a bit about how reach, range, and height only matter if you can control distance, which he cited a lot during that Adesanya thing.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's really interesting hearing Jack Slack talk about Adesanya because he's watched the guy for a long time, since back in the glory days, and definitely one of his boys, much like Whittaker. So it's cool hearing him talk about that. He also talked about how Whittaker was just using a ton of energy to close the distance, but he did have a tiny bit of success with leg kicks, but didn't really pursue it. So just an interesting episode from him. And I don't know, Jack Slack's fucking hilarious. So I'm always on board
he's the
for it.
best. He's just like, to me, everything you want, and because I think he's a good journalist and everything you want to also, and like that just cheeky humor.
Yeah, he's very good at being
bring.
a very cheeky British man. Him and Phil McKenzie both have that cheeky British man corner market.
See, because they got it down to a T with that humor. I'm not. I mean, I have a lot of English blood. However, I'm not raised there, so I don't have like their same kind of cadence or kind of demeanor that he can bring. But my very, very dark sense of humor. Maybe it comes from the English. I don't know. I think you need that's a prerequisite for that. But I think it's all about that delivery and kind of just being deadpan, which you and I have done a pretty good job lately in the past couple weeks of.
My humor gets real dark when I'm not drinking. It gets way snarkier. That's why I started the weed back up. I made a couple jokes in a row that I was told maybe you should smoke some balls. I was like, yeah. I'm not against that. I did have another catch for this week, which is Grange TV episode 59. Robert Whitaker did a podcast this week, which is pretty crazy. Just like talking about the loss, talking about the fight. I believe the episode started with this coach saying, "So, how was your weekend? Did you get into a fight?" Which was pretty solid. And he just talks about the loss to Izzy and how he had a great lead up and great camp. He says he got caught a lot, but I think I don't think he means it as in like that's the only reason he lost. But he does say it enough times that I don't know necessarily what it means. But he talks about losing being part of the game and just kind of people forget that he's lost before in devastating fashion. So it's not the first time, and he was in good spirits. He sounded really good. I was surprised because it's a crazy quick turnaround.
I'll say that dude's got a great support system around him.
Yeah.
I know he's someone who's been, especially someone who's been dealing with depression for a long time. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He's able to just kind of will himself to do that. Even just to get in the fucking octagon, dude. That's, for all those who've dealt with depression and it's not fun and it's crazy and good on him. That's why for him he's inspiring to me. Especially you're able to kind of will that amount of just anything. You're able to just kind of just still kind of go forward in the way he kind of not brushes it off, but kind of just focuses his entire self into that, just into not even just being a fighter. You know what I'm trying to say? It's kind of hard to put into words. But,
no, I definitely know what you mean. He even talks a bit about it. That at one point, someone during the chat, because he took a lot of questions from chat, which is weird. He handled it all well, but people always say weird stuff to fighters after wins or losses, and it's like it's always just weird. I feel like there's no real good answer other than talking about food. I feel like that's always the right answer. But he talked a bit about how I believe one of the people asked, "Are you?" Damn, that weed is not helping me right now. I believe one of the people asked, I believe one of the people said, like, "Hey, you're really inspiring as a fighter and just as a dude." And he was like, "I care way more about the dude thing." He's like, I think about like kids right now who are in high school who see clips of me on YouTube, and I want them to be like, "Damn, that dude's cool and like just a good guy."
That's awesome.
And he's like, he just seems very grounded and very down to earth and stuff. So it was a really interesting and honest kind of discussion you hear from him. Also, he talks a lot about being really excited to go to, I want to say PAX, but I think PAX just passed a little bit ago, didn't it?
He was at Bethesda Con.
Yeah. That's what he went to.
Yeah, because he was promoting a new
Bethesda.
Doom game.
Yep.
And he was doing something else.
Yeah.
It was Bethesda.
He was super hyped about that. He's like, "Yeah, I might like go get some armor."
I still haven't played. I still never played Doom from 2016 or whatever it was. It's on Xbox Game Pass. I might as well download it.
It's on everything.
It looks really fucking cool.
Yeah, it's really goddamn good. The way they integrated
I heard this
Melee with everything and the way it
and I saw that like the score is like some dude who's like just huge into composing death metal. Not a big fan of death metal, mostly because of the vocals, but there's no vocals. I'm like, oh wait, now I'm down. It's just like crazy thrash, like speed metal.
No, yeah,
you're fucking just like killing shit.
So fun. It's such a dope thing. It's crazy that they actually.
Fuck, I might have to do that tonight.
Yeah,
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I'm jumping into what the fuck was I just about to jump into? Forget something. Oh, I'm jumping back into goddamn Apex. Goddamn season 3.
Dude, we should play. I've been playing it like forever, dude.
Same.
And it's like my PlayStation's collecting dust right now because I just been on Xbox playing Gears, but then again, that's a whole other shit show right now.
I've been playing Borderlands.
It's a great game, but it's
for
like
some
fuck.
reason, so I don't got any good answers. I have been playing Session, that the goddamn early access skateboarding game. That's like a skate successor. It's so dope. It's so hard, but it's so
fuck.
dope.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not a video game podcast. What are we doing? We'll keep on moving on. Do you have an MMA podcast you recommend people skip this week?
Not really, because considering I only have notes for 3 podcasts. Some of the other podcasts I listen to, I just didn't write notes for. I listened to Believe You Me. That's kind of just. I'm not gonna say it's a skip. I mean, basically the kind of criteria for that is for the first 30 to 40 minutes, they don't talk about fighting.
Yeah, that's just kind of how that show is now.
And I like it. And someone reminds Michael, "Hey man, you guys got to talk about MMA." And he's like, "Oh, hey Lewis, did you know there was a fight last week?" And he's like, "Yeah, doggy, baby boy." So that's I don't want to have a skip. I'll probably just mention everything else I listen to, at least that I have that I can recall, right? Because I might have been under a lot of influences. I was listening to a lot of these.
I wish I was under more. I'll tell you what.
You know what? Embrace your sobriety, my friend.
Oh
because
my God. I'm gonna embrace more weed in my face later. Because that and cigars is how I am surviving this month.
You sound like a slightly less grumpy Bill Burr, but then again, when you have a cigar,
basically.
it's just
way less freckled and sunburnt. But yeah,
and you're not bald.
Well, give it. I'm getting closer and closer to Bill Burr every day. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so my skip this week. Speaking of bald fucks. Wait, no, Bill Burr's not a bald fuck, but this next guy is. Well, not the guy who hosts the show, but the guy who I'm about to talk about who was on the show. That weed is not helping me. That was a terrible plan at the beginning of this. The MMA Roadshow, episode 237. It was a fine show. John and Cold Coffee are hanging out, drinking Pabst Blue Ribbons. Oh God, there's a monster. Oh God. Yeah, they're hanging out drinking Pabst Blue Ribbons, and so John went to Ali Abdelaziz's Dominance MMA Media Day at Tyson Ranch.
Oh yeah, that whole thing.
This is where Ali babbled about not hating people, about no longer getting into fights with other managers or other fighters or people in the industry because he's over all that, and he's not about that.
Yeah, he's a stand-up guy, don't you know?
Yeah, no, that was it was less than 24 hours after he tried to fist fight Kawa again. Actually, I believe it was the other Kawa this time, but still, I think it was Abe. But God, not. So that's a big reason why it's a skip. John did ask at one point if Ali ever talks to his clients about starting a union because he has enough people that it would be a big portion of the roster, or at least an important portion of the roster. And Ali says that starting a union is being a bitch and going behind everyone's back, and that you should just go talk to Dana and not be a bitch.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a lot of that.
I don't even know. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
That's my response.
I hope John stops doing PR for Ali Abdelaziz because it's getting gross.
Ali Abdelaziz?
Yeah, and I really like John Morgan, but and I know it's because they're telling him it's how he gets access to all these guys. And to be fair, he did also have a great interview with Justin Gaethje, who was high as shit off Mike Tyson weed. So that's fun. That was part of the episode as well.
Oh yeah, someone did mention how high was Justin Gaethje on his interviews.
Oh, he was really high because they were.
Because someone also said. Someone also said one of Justin's interviews are like, "Oh, what's your next fight?" He's like, "Oh, it's Habib or it's fucking McNuggets." And then they're like, "Oh, but shouldn't Habib fight Tony?" He's like, "You mentioned that he should fight Tony." He's like, "No, I should fight him next because I have a great manager." And someone's like, "How high is Justin right now?"
Yeah, he's really high during that interview. John Morgan actually said during the episode that they had to go find Justin because they thought he left, Nope. Turns out he was off smoking weed, and then he came over and was very. I believe John said he was really enjoying the CBD edibles that he might have come across. But yeah, no, he was super baked. So I mean, it's only a skip because of the giant PR segment for Ali Abdelaziz, which was right before he attacked another manager at a fucking event where he has majority of the fighters and he makes percentage of their purse. Oh, also, he was the former matchmaker for the previous version of that company. Weird coincidence.
Is that what's that called again? Conflict of what? I'm very ignorant.
Well, it's all of the conflicts. Ali Abdelaziz has all of the conflicts.
I'm a fighter, bro. You don't understand. I train 25-8.
Fucking sleazing 25-8.
Dude, he's the kind of motherfucker he tried to convince himself or that he's a fighter before he's the manager. Like, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm for sure convinced I'm going to get swung on by him someday. I don't know why. I just feel like he's the type of dude who will find out where the fuck I am just for talking on.
Oh, you know what I do? I know he's like a judoka, or he kind of was. I would just honestly probably kick him in the balls.
Robert Brighton?
Yeah. Oh, no, he's Robert. But like, as far as kicking someone in the nuts is very, very frowned upon, and don't ever do it. It's a bitch move. He kind of deserves it.
I don't know. Like, Fritz Von Erich was all about it.
Well,
that was
if I saw it, I'd probably kick him square in the balls.
I mean,
and just like walk away.
That's a move, I guess. But yeah. Anyway,
I mean, I don't want to do that.
I'm trying to segue off of it.
Yeah. MMA Rochambeau. There we go. Anyways,
MMA Roadshow 237. It was fine. There's also an interview with JJ and Michelle Watterson, but I don't know. The Ali thing just bugged me. Let's see. Did you have a can't miss for this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Heavy Hands. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really good.
They had a good breakdown of what they described as an uncharacteristic performance from Robert Whittaker. It was kind of mostly how I would say a lot of other podcasts described it, is in that Adesanya was off balance. There was multiple times where he could have gotten a leg, taken him down, setting up takedowns. He was left overextending because he was headhunting. So that was kind of the obvious stuff they got out of the way. And then that's where my notes stopped. They had a good breakdown of Iaquinta and Dan Hooker. They thought Al looked slow, and
I believe it was also called Al Iaquinta versus Donald Cerrone too.
Yep, thank you, Cerrone.
This goddamn puns.
What do you think, by the way, of what is it? I know Dan Hooker's trying to just call everyone because he wants to climb up the rankings, but it's like at this point, excuse me, say you're like Dustin Poirier. I mean, Dustin Poirier's like, calm down, dude. I'm trying to fight Conor, but it's just like, I get it. Everyone wants to get paid and fight Conor, but it's just like you have to realize Conor's not fighting anytime soon.
Yeah, my favorite was I think DC was trying to get one of his Russian dudes to fight Dan Hooker.
Oh, Islam.
It was Islam. And Dan Hooker replied back like, "Wow, DC, that's a weird matchup for you for your next fight." Something along those lines, bro. Dan Hooker's a funny dude. I miss his show Frenemies with Israel Adesanya. Fuck Maori TV for not paying them.
Oh, what's also funny is, like, for most Americans who've never, like, heard a Kiwi talk, and this is, of course, they're like, oh, he sounds like that guy Korg from the Avengers or from fucking Thor. It's like, well, maybe because he's voiced by a fucking Kiwi director, dumbass. Like, yes, they all sound similar, but come on.
Right.
You're going to say he sounds like a fucking guy from Marvel, which, I get it, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, still.
Someday they'll see Flight of the Conchords and lose their goddamn mind.
Thank you. Yeah. So. Yeah. Oh, and other than that, the only thing I noticed for was MMA Vivisection, which was solid as well.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, they said apparently the UFC thinks Eric Anders and Violent Bob Ross are a draw. Really, go figure. So.
Yeah. I could see that. Also, you guys will hear on the upcoming Seamus. You really have to just walk around all over, huh, bud?
Pitter pattern.
Yeah, for real. Also, you guys will hear on the upcoming break a clip from Heavy Hands in which fucking Phil McKenzie did a very similar thing to Jack Slack in that they accidentally said something that sounded super dirty and then got very British, hilarious, and dry about it.
I remember this. Yeah, I'll let you say it. Yeah, I remember this.
I'm not even going to say it. You guys will hear it on the break. But
yeah,
god damn it. It's hilarious that they both did that within the same week.
Yeah.
Because Jack Slack's one about fucking pegging Dan Hooker as a boy was really fucking good. So I wanted to give them both a shout out for being very dry and British with hilarious jokes on accident.
That's real good
because they're real solid. So my can't miss for this week is actually one of the best episodes. I tweeted it out this week. One of the best episodes I've ever heard of like a long form interview. It's exactly what I wish people like Ariel would do. And it's Fits in a Fighter with Jessica I. It's so goddamn good. It's just Jessica and Brendan sitting down, and she starts with her loss to Valentina and kind of dealing with the loss and her recent move to Vegas and separating from Strong Style and all the changes. And then they kind of go back. He kind of just walks through her life. Like, she talks about her childhood and like her mom shooting her dad when she was a kid. There's crazy stories about getting kicked out at 18 and like cocktail waitressing at a strip club at 19.
Wait, who the fuck is this?
Jessica I.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And this is like, I was just barely touching on some of the crazy fucking stories. She talks about fighting for Bellator and like drama with her dad that she's had over the years and just like fights they've gotten in. Just fucking crazy. She said she had 6 herniations in her back in the lead into the Valentina fight, which is fucking ridiculous. She had to get shots just to make it to that fight. Just all these crazy fucking stories, and it's impossible not to like Jessica I after that. It's just so great.
Yeah, no, I mean some of the craziest stories are they're interesting, but they're also, I guess, the cliche inspiring, whatever you want to call it. But it kind of gives you that new perspective on a fighter that you may not have had initially. And it's always, I think, better.
Well, and I've heard glimpses of a lot of this stuff before, and like small parts of it here and there. But hearing like a long hour plus, I think it was like hour 20-minute interview with Jessica and Brendan, it was really fucking cool, and I'm really excited to see more of what he does, because he's done a lot of those on his podcast, and this is just one of the ones that I think was absolutely great example of you've heard glimpses of a lot of these stories, but not nearly in this much detail, and I can't recommend it highly enough. So, Fits in a Fighter with Jessica I. You should absolutely go check it out. It's fantastic. Let's see. Did you have any?
Will.
Yeah, it's so good. Did you have any new shows that you listened to this week?
Unfortunately, not. I know I'm really good at that, at listening to new shows.
So
basically, it should be called Chris Once in a Blue Moon new show.
Right. I'm gonna start sending you shows to listen to each week. I already got.
Yeah,
actually,
I think you might have.
This one will be one of the ones that you'll have to listen to next week, which is Judo Bill dropped in chat last week and gave us a recommendation on the Front Row Brian podcast. So I listened to episode 29, which he just dropped. And it's another show that's hosted on Anchor. I know Anchor is like getting pretty fucking popular. I don't know how the model works. I think it's like really fucking affordable. Plus they will automatically, you'll know Anchor podcasts because they all have the same fucking ads dropped in the beginning of them. So like a lot of the shows you listen to, I believe, I always mix up Spreaker and Anchor, but because they do similar things. But essentially, they'll drop ads in for you regardless of how many listeners you have, and then if you get any kind of click through or like just any kind of decent viewership, then they have some deals worked out. I should probably look into that, but we don't make any fucking money on this show. We just lose money on this show. So I spend fucking almost $100 a month on this show just on fucking Patreon. So to be fair, I would probably be doing that anyway. And it's not 100. It's closer to 100 than 50, but it's not 100. Anyway. Yeah, so I listened to Front Row Brian's podcast. It's really interesting. When I first got it recommended by Judo Bill, I was pretty hesitant because I was like, I mean, not that I wouldn't like it, but that it would be MMA related, because Front Row Brian can go all over the goddamn place, and he loves him some hot takes. So didn't know exactly what to expect, but the most recent one was he talks about the relationship between Bellator, Ryzen, and One Championship, and how they're all kind of competing like for similar markets. He talks about how Ryzen and Bellator are doing the New Year's Eve event, where they're going to do some crossover matches and co-promote it. I believe it's going to be on Paramount and on is it Abema TV or whatever the Japanese TV is that has Ryzen. It's something like that. But it's interesting hearing him talk about that. And he talks about how the UFC in the past has attempted to integrate into Japanese kind of MMA with the guy they sent over to try and run Dream, and then that all fell apart. And he mentions that essentially right now One and Ryzen are both battling for Japan, and One is battling Bellator for the US right now with their cable distribution on Bleacher Report and on Turner or whatever the fuck. Weird ass. It's on some fucking deep cable channel that I would never go to. I forget what it is. It's like, I don't remember. I should actually know that. It's on tonight. Here, let me just look at grabakahitman.wordpress.com. Shouts out to that dude, because he's the only helpful fucking resource when it comes to trying to find when and where fights are. This is really not gonna help my cause after all this time. Oh my god. There are a lot of fights this weekend. TNT. It was TNT all along. So their One's recent relationship with TNT, where they actually are going to be on TNT tonight live at 8 p.m., I believe, which will be interesting to see. But it's interesting hearing Brian's perspective on that, because he knows a lot behind the more business and administration side of all that stuff. He's always kind of had his hands in that. And it's just interesting to hear his kind of insight into it and things to look out for. He also talks a bit about ways to measure the kind of the different ratings that come out and some considerations you should take in when looking at them. So it's just an interesting conversation that I haven't heard a lot of podcasts have. So I would recommend checking it out. Although I don't know what his other episodes are like. Fucking, it's Front Row Brian, so it could be like crazy conspiracy shit that he doesn't even believe. I don't know. Front Row Brian will get out there sometimes, so. But I like that
Tom
one.
Tom DeLonge-esque?
Oh, no, he's not nearly that bad. But he'll absolutely get into some weird fucking Alex Jones conspiracy. God. No, like conspiracies about Alex Jones or semi-involving Alex. Not like the shit Alex Jones is... I'm not going down this rabbit hole. This is exactly what FRB wants, so I'm not doing it.
I can help you with that, but I'm not going to.
I think he just like stirred up shit. So be aware of that. But let's see. So did you have any? You already got your honorable mentions, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So we talked about Heavy Hand. Some of the other ones I listened to that I really liked. Fernanda put out 2 episodes. Well, actually, the Greg Hardy issue and Well, actually, bullshit that we heard this week. They're both really good. The Greg Hardy one, she basically took comments on Twitter about how people feel about Hardy being in the UFC and just kind of Hardy being around in general. Which, that was interesting. And I like just that she's having those kinds of discussions and kind of just addressing both sides of it, which I think is absolutely needed in the sport. And again, nobody's really doing that. So I found that interesting. And then the bullshit that we heard this week was great. She talks about Adesanya's walkout and just some of the insane comments around that. She talks about the teenage ass jokes about Joanna's tits. And she talks about and she talks about Dern's accent and how being bilingual can actually affect your accent, which I never really put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, no.
Like, because she is bilingual.
Don't get me wrong.
And that
it will. Yeah, I was initially on the train of, oh no, she's faking it, and I was like, wait, no, like, did she like grow up actually speaking Portuguese? She's probably not faking it. Like,
no, she grew up speaking. She didn't used to have the accent as strong, but she also is now married to a Brazilian dude and has been spending a decent amount of time in Brazil. And also her dad is Brazilian, and so.
Oh yeah, this is the thing. I never like. like, yes, I doubted initially. Like, oh, yeah, maybe it's kind of like an act if she's trying to promote herself more as a Brazilian, which is fine. You can do whatever you want. Yeah. But no, it's definitely a very real thing that happens. Like, it even fucking happened to Arnold Schwarzenegger, evidently. Apparently, he was, like, in a movie where he was supposed to do some sort of accent, and he, like, apparently he, like, legitimately lost his original, like, accent when speaking English and had to, like, retrain. It happened to Gary Oldman, too. So a lot of, like, well, that's a better example. Arnold losing his accent, that would be fucking hilarious. But Gary Oldman, a very good actor, he legitimately lost his natural English accent at one point, which, yeah, I could totally see that, especially for in character, you know?
Yeah. Well, and especially...
So, yeah, no, I believe her.
It was cool hearing Fernanda talk about how her own accent varies, like, depending on if she's drinking, if she's not drinking, what situation she's in, if she's nervous, which that's stuff that you don't think about, but, yeah, obviously it would. Also, Judo Bill dropped in chat and just let us know that Front Row Brian's podcast has been all MMA related, no tinfoil hat stuff so far. So I'm fucking in. I'm gonna listen to way more of that then.
Yeah, my favorite example of someone changing their accent, at least in like it doesn't matter if it's professional sports, was the quarterback to the Packers, Aaron Rodgers. I think it was like 2 years ago. He was on painkillers, and they at the end of the game. And in an interview, he starts talking with like some southern drawl. It's one of the funniest fucking interviews I've ever seen.
Do that to you. A slur will make you southern very quick.
Yeah, he's like very loopy as fuck. He's like, yeah, I just came out there and just kept throwing the ball around, and you kept getting like, what the fuck is going on, dude? Like, you're not southern,
right?
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, just having a parent that has an accent can give you a weird accent, too. Like, Trevor would, every once in a while, will get a little, our buddy Trevor gets a little southern every once in a while, because his dad's from South Carolina, I want to say.
Yeah, South Carolina. Yeah.
So,
it's that's a good point. Yeah.
I didn't think about it till right now, but that's funny. Speaking of accents, Submission Radio, episode 195 was solid. New York Rick was on, and then they had Eugene Behrman, the coach of Israel Adesanya, and Dan Hooker, and Alex Volkanovski.
That's right.
Them. Or I guess Volkanovski.
And Brad, and what's his name? Brad Riddell?
Yeah.
Not Brad. What's his name? Riddell?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Brad.
Yeah.
But yeah, he came on. It was really interesting hearing him. He had some super interesting insights on kind of how they were worked on turning Robert and mitigating the right hand and stuff like that. So that was cool to hear. Oh, he did also say at one point that he has like political and moral issues with John Jones. He's like, if someone in my gym did what John did, he'd either leave the gym or we take him out back and beat the shit out of him. It's like, oh, I fucks with Eugene Behrman hard.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, he is a no-nonsense dude. And then Boss Rutan called in at the end, so that was solid. Always like the Submission Radio guys' stuff. That's always fun. Fights
have you been...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was say, have you... I mean, a lot of people, the fucking whole Twitter feud with Johnny Boney Jonies and fucking Izzy. It's so dumb.
I avoid all that shit. Like, it's
basically he's just like
people who aren't necessarily clever. Like, John Jones is never really that
funny. He's not. He's just like, he's like Izzy's trying to get more Dragon Ball Z fans or something or followers. He's like fucking nerd or some shit. And they're like, what? I don't know. Like, no one cares, dude. That's just who he is. It's not an act.
I forget who it was on Twitter. Somebody made a really good Dragon Ball joke about John Jones after that. We're gonna find out that John Jones just goes on rampages because he actually had his tail cut off, and every time there's a moonlight, the moon comes out. He goes out and parties, which
he's
really
who's our
Dragon Ball joke.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it. Fights Come By, episode 171 was solid. He talked about whether or not the Ryzen and one cards were actually going to happen since there was a hurricane warning in Japan. Co-main event 374 was solid. A lot of talk about Ben being in Australia, and a lot of beer talk, stuff like that. Ben actually did mention that he asked Lawrence Epstein about the numbers coming out, about the permanent 20% wage share. And he mentions that, like, hey, no other media is asking these people this shit. What the fuck? Why am I the only one? Which we all know the answer to that, because The Athletic, he can actually be a journalist. But Lawrence Epstein evidently said, oh, I can't say anything because of the trial that's going on. But And then Ben asked him, "Oh, so after the trial you'll talk about it?" He's like, "Oh, I have lots of information I want to talk about after the trial." Like, all right, well, that'll be fun when that never happens. Severe MMA episode 230 was solid. Some PFL talk. And all the cards this weekend, like Cage Warriors, which I think is probably happening by the time this podcast ends. And then there's so many fucking cards happening this weekend. TSN MMA show, episode 110. Nick Baldwin was in studio. That one was really solid. Fight Court with Rob Tatum and King Mo. They talk a lot about the difference in the way strikers and grapplers are promoted, which I thought was super interesting. Like, you can see... King Mo's point was that you see guys like Till and Connor and Izzy all get fast-tracked to title shots, whereas dudes like Khabib, I mean, Khabib did have a bunch of injuries, but that dude had to fight fucking everybody to get a title shot.
Yeah.
So, some interesting points on that for sure. Protect Your Neck, episode 151 and 152 were solid. There's a lot of shows this week. They were all good. Between Rounds Roundtable was Jack Encarnacio, Jeff Sherwood, and Ant Walker, and that was really solid. Care Don't Care for UFC Tampa with Crookie, Eugene, and John Nash was good. Menace and the Man, episode 50. Manny Bermudez, Charles Rosa, Jake Hager, Jared Cannonier, and Gilbert Burns all guested. Not at the same time, obviously. They called in. But that was a solid episode as well. And... Jesus, I still have more. Severe MMA, the premium episode, they did a Randy Couture career retrospective, which was cool. I always enjoy Sean talking about the Shawnee podcasts, for those who don't know. Sean Sheehan, I guess, is his other name. He talked a lot about... I always enjoy his retrospectives where he goes back and looks at a career. Like, he did the Sakuraba one a little bit ago. And, yeah, Randy Couture one was good as well. The only other thing I wanted to shout out was, did you listen to Morning Combat this week?
That's Luke Thomas's thing, right?
Yep. Where he talks fast?
Fuck, I missed it. God damn it.
So,
I mean, when does he not talk fast? Dude's always coffeeed out of his mind.
True, but on that show, you know, remember I was bothering you and me how they were like talking in double time? Him and Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Because they, like, intentionally, like, it feels like they force how fast they talk it to be, like, an ESPN anchor kind of style. Anyway, Brian wasn't there this week, and Chuck Mindenhall sat in. Fucking totally different pace of that show. So it's really just that Brian talks fast, and it makes Luke talk fast to keep up with him. Because the pace was completely different. It was.
So basically, it's like, it's no more shitty Jim Rome, where it's like,
yeah.
Now I'm going to get to the next point. No, check that. The other point. Nope, check that again. I'm going to talk about this. Okay, next thing we're doing.
Yeah,
you know.
It's exactly that, but it's evidently it's just the way Luke and Brian play off each other, which makes me way less bothered by the speed of that. Because I thought it was a producer thing, but Chuck Mindenhall came on, and it basically sounded like the MMA beat. It was that kind of cadence. So I was like, oh, well, okay, it's got to just be Luke and the way Luke and Brian go back and forth, so... Thought that was interesting. Also, Luke's been doing live chats again, so those are always cool.
That's right. Wednesdays.
Actually, the one this week, he shit on China a lot. He's like,
Good.
Y'all motherfuckers are really... Like, he just kept calling out every... Like, you can see all the shady NBA journalists right now who are, like, going out of their way to not address how China's a straight monarchy where they are literally rounding up people and harvesting organs.
Not even just a dictatorship, just a fucking terrible regime. It's like, dude, it's modern day Stalin.
Yeah, it's
that
horrible,
Winnie the Pooh. That Winnie the Pooh looking motherfucker is out of his goddamn mind.
That's right. So, yeah.
Fuck China. Did I already say that? Oh yeah.
Right. Also, fuck China. Also, the Hong Kong thing, like, yo, fucking let Hong Kong.
Yeah, hashtag free Hong Kong, hashtag free Tibet.
That's right. Oh, fuck. There goes our sweet, lucrative Chinese market money we're about to make, bro.
Oh, what a shame.
You know, that famous Chinese YouTube money. It's not a thing.
Yeah, right.
Our fucking YouTube is monetized.
Hey,
so
or as George W. Bush may or may not have said, China.
That's right. I still I think...
I see. I still believe he said that, but I'm not sure. But whatever.
It's forever going to be stuck in my head, regardless. So,
China.
But yeah, those are the main ones I had. Some news that I found out. Good news for podcast fans and for people who were hoping Mark Goddard was going to do some more podcasts. Evidently, his show with Dan Hardy is back. They just did episode 4 yesterday.
Okay.
Which would have been Friday, the 11th of October. So I'm glad to see that back. I haven't got a chance to listen to it yet, but I'm excited about it. I skimmed through and I did see that Goddard does talk a little bit about the Izzy Whitaker match, which he reffed. So it's always I appreciate having a ref out there talking about being a ref while they're actively a ref. That's why I like John McCarthy's podcast so much. I think that's also why he had to stop doing it, is because commission leaned on him. So hopefully the commissions don't lean on Goddard, because it's good for him to at least, right or wrong, I'd like to at least hear his opinion, you know? Because otherwise we don't get it, and that's kind of, it doesn't help anybody. So also, Dan Hardy has coming out Remember That Fight, which they put out one of Dan Hardy watching Dan Hardy fights with some of the people he works with, like some of the younger dudes who are like video interns and stuff for him. So it's just Dan Hardy watching old Dan Hardy fights, which is pretty tight.
That sounds like pretty meta, but also interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him go back and watch his earlier fights, because I bet he has some hilarious fucking stories from him.
I bet. Here's where I should have done this.
Right.
There's some shit.
He also has the show Open Mat, which is him, Adam Catterall, and Nick Pete, where they break down fights. They just recently did one on Izzy's win over Whitaker. So I'm probably going to check out some or all of that stuff next week. Since I definitely at least want to check out that Remember That Fight series with Dan Hardy. Because I think he's going to go back and watch old. It seems like, I don't know if this is the only one he's done. I literally did about 2 minutes of research before we started. So I'm excited to see it regardless. So cool, man. Well, we will go ahead and jump to our second segment. I will say, before we go to the second segment, there is so much goddamn MMA this weekend. Full disclosure, I did very mild tape study this week, mostly because on Friday night there was CES, there was PFL 2019 number 7, there was Combate 46, and there was Ryzen 19. That was just last night. And then today there's Bellator Kickboxing, which is happening right now, Glory 69, which is happening right now. Cage Warriors starts in 2 hours, 1 hour. Bellator Milan starts at 2 p.m. Bellator 230 is at 6 p.m. UFC Tampa is at 2 p.m. 1 Century is at 5 p.m. And then there's the second 1 Century card at 1 a.m. There's a lot of fucking MMA this weekend, so we're mostly just going to focus on the Tampa card, mostly because Bellator is doing some tape delay bullshit again, and so not doing it. But we will be back here shortly to give our picks for this UFC Tampa card, which looks like it's going to be fucking dope as hell. These prelims are cool, so we'll be back. In the meantime, listen to Phil McKenzie talk about things he didn't mean to talk about.
Liked by the sound of violence.
I think the interesting thing about this fight is that it's going to be one where Jędrzejczyk is not going to be being pressured. It's that she's going to be. It's going to be one of the ones where she has to come forward, and we haven't necessarily seen that all that much in her UFC career.
We saw it in her last fight.
Yeah, exactly. Is that Jędrzejczyk really likes people to come onto her? That didn't sound right.
Cut that right now. Phil, I wasn't even thinking of it. I think you just indicted yourself as a creep. I didn't even think of it. I'm such a good, pure boy. You are a fucking sex freak. You're a pervert.
They all do, I tell you.